Okay, let's unpack this. You sent us some really fascinating sources about coffee. And honestly, what we found goes way, way beyond just, a morning caffeine kick. Our mission here in this deep dive is really to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from your sources, give you that shortcut to being well-informed about coffee's pretty profound health impacts. We want this to be crisp, easy to grasp, and packed with action-oriented stuff you can actually use.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating, I think, is how these sources reveal coffee as this powerful, evidence-based intervention for your health. Almost like a daily dose of wellness, if you will. We're going to try and connect the dots here. From like cellular health right through to your daily performance, offering you some surprising facts, hopefully, and clear, actionable insights might just change how you view that morning ritual.
So I have to admit, one of the things that really jumped out at me from your sources was this idea coffee might actually slow biological aging. It sounds almost too good to be true, maybe counterintuitive for some folks. Can you tell us more about what your sources said there?
It is pretty remarkable, isn't it? Your sources show, coffee can measurably slow your biological aging. Think of chronological age as just the candles on the cake, how many years you've been around. Biological age, though, that reflects the actual health of your cells, your DNA. It's kind of your true cellular age.
Ah, okay. So it's more about the actual wear and tear inside, not just the calendar date.
Exactly that. And research, including some really interesting work by Dr. Rhonda Patrick's team, highlights coffee's knack for lowering these epigenetic age markers. Think of them like chemical tags on your DNA. They kind of tell the story of your cellular health, how fast you're aging biologically. The latest 2024 study, looking at a big group, NAAE meat cell participants, showed that even just 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day significantly reduced biological age advancement. And if you drank more than 3 cups, the reduction was even greater.
Wow.
Yeah. And this isn't just about, looking younger. It suggests coffee is actively reprogramming genes for younger cell behavior. What's also cool is that this benefit seems pretty consistent across different groups of people. And it's largely down to coffee's beneficial compounds, things like polyphenols and chlorogenic acids, not just the caffeine.
Right. Okay, now, for a long time, the whole coffee and heart health thing seemed confusing. I definitely remember hearing warnings about it. Have your sources completely flipped that narrative, or is it more nuanced?
That's a great question because, the story has definitely shifted. The latest, most consistent evidence now really points overwhelmingly towards coffee enhancing cardiovascular health. Regular coffee drinkers, we're seeing, have a notably lower risk of cardiovascular diseases, things like heart attacks, strokes. We're talking a pretty significant 10 to 15% risk reduction, especially for people having, say, 2 to 3 cups a day.
So it's shifted from a potential worry to an actual benefit.
Precisely. And here's where caffeine specifically seems quite important. It can actively help stabilize heart rhythms, so regular consumers might see their risk of arrhythmia, that's irregular heartbeats, decrease by up to 17%. But it's important to note your sources indicate decaf coffee doesn't seem to share the specific arrhythmia benefit. So for your heart, 2 to 3 cups of caffeinated coffee daily looks like the sweet spot. It balances benefit and moderation.
Okay, so coffee's good for you. Got it. But one of the most powerful things, I think, from your sources is when you drink it. This feels like a key, actionable insight, something that could really change things for people. It's surprised me, honestly. What did the sources uncover about timing?
Yeah, this raises a really critical point, and it's probably one of the most actionable takeaways here. A pivotal 2025 study, and this looked at over 40,000 people, so a big cohort found that coffee consumed exclusively in the morning profoundly enhances health outcomes compared to drinking it throughout the day.
Exclusively in the morning. So it's not just the quantity, but the actual window you drink it in. That's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the contrast they found was, pretty striking. For those who only drank coffee in the morning compared to non-coffee drinkers, the benefits were really significant. So 1 to 2 cups just in the morning. That was linked to a 16% lower risk of dying from any cause and a 30% lower risk of cardiovascular disease mortality. But get this, the biggest benefit was seen at 2 to 3 cups per day, only in the morning. That showed a remarkable 29% lower risk of all-cause mortality and an incredible 48% lower risk of cardiovascular disease mortality.
48%. Wow.
That's huge.
It really is. And even at 3 or more cups a day, again, exclusively in the morning, there was still a substantial benefit. 21% lower all-cause mortality, 39% lower cardiovascular mortality.
And you mentioned a sharp contrast with all-day drinkers.
Yes, and this is the crucial bit. When they looked at people who drank coffee throughout the day, at any level of consumption, they showed no reduction in mortality risk. 0. So this is a really direct, actionable step you can take.
Yeah.
Try focusing your coffee consumption in those morning hours. It seems to make a big difference. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Beyond the heart, coffee also seems like a potent tool for metabolic health, especially around diabetes prevention. How does that work?
Yeah, it's quite powerful on that front, too. Drinking 2 to 3 cups a day is linked to roughly a 60% reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes. A big part of this seems to be coffee's ability to activate something called AMP-activated protein kinase, or AMPK. Think of AMPK as like a master switch for your metabolism. It's a critical enzyme. It helps your cells take up glucose more effectively, boosts fat burning, basically helps your body manage energy better. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, coffee also seems to positively tweak your gut microbiota composition and reduce inflammation, which further helps metabolically.
Gut microbes. So it's not just about blood sugar directly, but also feeding the good bugs in our gut. That's a connection I wouldn't have immediately made. You're absolutely right, and it's a really profound connection that's emerging. Coffee acts like a prebiotic. It delivers soluble fiber and these beneficial polyphenols that encourage the growth of important gut bacteria, things like bifidobacterium and the Faecalibacterium. These good microbes then produce short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs. And those SCFAs are crucial for keeping your gut barrier healthy, lowering inflammation systemically, and improving insulin sensitivity. And here's a really surprising detail from one huge data set, 23,000 people. Coffee was found to be the single strongest dietary factor shaping the microbiome. It enriched loads of different bacterial species. And one in particular, Lactobacter zaccharolyticus, was found almost only in habitual coffee drinkers, like a microbial coffee fingerprint. Coffee fingerprint in your gut. Okay. Yeah. Now, I definitely remember a time when coffee was linked to cancer concerns. What's the story now, according to your sources? Has that view totally changed?
It really has, quite significantly. You're right. Historically, some older observational studies back in the 70s and 80s suggested links. But often, those studies didn't properly account for other factors, like smoking, which was way more common among coffee drinkers back then. There were also some concerns about acrylamide, a chemical formed during roasting. However, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, they actually reclassified coffee back in 2016. They specifically took it off the list of possible carcinogens. And more rigorous, modern research now shows coffee actually seems to have strong anti-cancer properties.
So it went from maybe risky to actually protective. That's a huge turnaround.
It is, and the evidence now is pretty compelling. For example, each extra cup of coffee per day is linked with about a 15 to 20% lower risk of liver cancer, around a 10% reduction in endometrial cancer risk, and anywhere from an 11 to 54% lower risk for various others: oral, pharynx, colon, prostate cancer, even melanoma. So yeah, the current understanding clearly positions coffee as beneficial for cancer prevention.
Okay, so with all these benefits stacking up, aging, heart, metabolism, cancer, does it matter much if we drink caffeinated or decaf? Are they basically interchangeable for these effects?
That's an excellent question, and there is some nuance there, definitely. So extensive studies show both caffeinated and decaf coffee are beneficial for reducing overall mortality risk, cardiovascular risk, diabetes risk, and some cancers. However, caffeinated coffee seems to distinctly pull ahead when it comes to protecting against neurodegenerative diseases, specifically things like Parkinson's and potentially dementia. This seems to be down to caffeine's unique neuroprotective effects. Regular caffeinated coffee consumption significantly lowers the risk of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's by about 34 to 37%, according to the sources.
Okay, so a clear edge for caffeine there. What about for just like immediate brain power and physical performance? Does caffeine play a more direct, acute role?
Oh, absolutely. Moderate caffeine intake doesn't just help slow cognitive decline long term. It gives you that immediate boost, enhancements to attention, reaction time, memory. This is especially valuable, maybe, for people at higher risk for dementia. In fact, one big review concluded moderate caffeine intake is likely protective against mild cognitive impairment. And for physical performance, caffeine is arguably the most effective natural enhancer we know of. Taking about 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, which for most people is roughly 2 to 4 standard cups of coffee, can significantly improve endurance by 3 to 5%. It can boost strength output by 2 to 4%. And it really helps with cognitive tasks needing sustained attention and vigilance, improving performance by maybe 10 to 15%.
That's quite an edge. And for getting that maximum effect, when's the best time to drink it relative to needing the boost?
Right, for that optimal performance benefit, the ideal timing seems to be about 45 to 60 minutes before you plan to start your physical or mental task. Just a word of caution. Be mindful not to overdo it. Going over about 400 milligrams of caffeine daily, that amount varies by person, of course, can lead to side effects. Things like anxiety, jitters, faster heart rate, digestive issues, and definitely sleep disruption. So know your tolerance. And yeah, for these immediate cognitive and physical performance boosts, decaf coffee isn't going to deliver that specific effect. That's all caffeine.
Gotcha. Okay, finally, let's talk about what we actually put into our coffee, all the additions. Does that make a difference to these powerful health benefits we've been talking about?
It absolutely can. And this is another really key actionable insight from your sources. They reveal that dairy proteins, for instance, can significantly slow down the absorption of those beneficial polyphenols we mentioned earlier. This could potentially blunt some of coffee's immediate cognitive and anti-inflammatory effects. So yeah, if you're really looking for that quick, sharp boost from your coffee, maybe think about how much milk or cream you're adding.
Interesting. What about some of the maybe trendier additions, like MCT oil or L-theanine that some people put in?
Yeah, those are interesting cases. Medium chain triglycerides, MCTs, you often see them in bulletproof coffee. There's some evidence they might enhance cognitive performance, maybe provide a more sustained energy release, and possibly help suppress appetite. And then L-theanine, that's an amino acid often found in green tea. When you combine it with coffee's caffeine, it seems to kind of change coffee's effect profile a bit. It can induce a sense of calm relaxation, improve focus without the jitter some people get from caffeine alone. And some studies even suggest it might promote more restorative sleep later on, which is pretty unique for something you take with a stimulant.
Right. Okay, so wrapping this all up, what does this mean? We've done this deep dive into your sources, and it's really clear coffee is so much more than just a morning habit. It's a complex brew.
Yeah, exactly. If we try and connect all these dots, to really optimize coffee's considerable health potential, the practical guidelines that emerge from your sources seem pretty clear. Aim for daily consumption, maybe 2 to 3 cups of filtered coffee. Drink it primarily in the morning. Use minimal additives, especially if you want those immediate polyphenol benefits. And maybe pay some attention to your brewing method too, though we didn't dive deep there today. But that focused approach really seems to leverage coffee's potent effects on longevity, heart health, metabolism, cancer prevention, and both brain function and physical performance.
That's fantastic. Really actionable stuff. So the next time you pour that morning cup, you'll know you're not just enjoying a beverage. You're actually engaging in this compelling evidence-based intervention for your sustained health, vitality, and wellness. Maybe consider how integrating these timing and additive choices might really shift your daily experience and your long-term health path. What stands out most to you from this deep dive today? Definitely something to mull over until next time.